Hi there. Well, today's video is going to be my fifth in a series about my experience with Retin A. And if you're not a regular subscriber of mine, I want to go ahead and bring you up to speed and give you a little bit of background about myself and my experience so far. So I'm 38 years old, so I started using Retin A in July of last year when I was 37. I started off at the lowest strength, which is 0.025%, and I've worked my way up to what I'm using now, which is 0.1%, the highest strength available. The reasons why I started using Retin A are basically just a little bit of anti-aging. I have some fine lines, some surface lines on my skin. I also had a little bit of sunspots and also some mild acne, adult acne. So I just wanted to sort of start combating all of those things. I really wanted to take a more prophylactic approach and start working to remove some of these fine lines and wrinkles before they got a little bit further. I really have enjoyed my experience with Retin A. I have done a 1-week update when I first started it. I also did a 6-week, a 3-month, and a 6-month update. I will link to all of those below, so if you're interested in seeing how the process started, you can find out a little bit more about that. I will say that the adjustment period in the beginning was a lot more difficult to get used to than it has been with this most recent increase in strength to the 0.1%. This has actually been pretty painless. It's been a very smooth transition. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that and just sort of what my experience has been since I started using it, which was about 6 weeks ago. So I'm 6 weeks into the highest strength of Retin A or tretinoin. So based on your skin type and sensitivity, I think everyone's experience with Retin A can vary a little bit. I think a lot of us do have some of the same side effects, especially initially, but your ability to adapt to that and to adjust can really vary from person to person. I think most people do adjust very well to using Retin A, but some people's skin might be so sensitive that they're never able to get through that adjustment period, and it always causes them a lot of irritation. I had a pretty great adjustment period to Retin A. I had the typical bumps in the road when I initially started using the product. I did have a really pretty severe breakout on my skin, at least severe by my standards. I do have adult acne, but it's pretty mild, meaning I usually only have maybe one mild thing going on at a time, one blemish here or there. And I'm actually getting to the point now that I've been using Retin A for a while where I can have days and maybe a week at a time where I don't have any blemishes on my skin. So I have really seen a noticeable improvement on that front. I've also seen my skin become a lot smoother since I've been using Retin A. I've noticed a little bit of diminished appearance of the fine lines on my skin. I think that areas of my skin where I have the most pronounced lines would be right here around my mouth and then on my forehead. I really don't have anything around my eyes yet. I don't do a lot of squinting. I'm always sure to wear sunglasses outside, so that's just not an area of concern. But I would say most definitely my forehead, because I do make a lot of expressions like, you know, this. You'll notice when I'm talking, I do raise my brows a lot. So the Retin A is only going to do so much to buff those lines a little bit, but I have seen a little bit of an improvement. I've not done Botox or anything like that yet. That might be something coming up for me in the future, but for right now, I just wanted to try the Retin A and see what I could do with that. Also, the lines here around my face, again, expression lines from, you know, smiling and just talking and things like that. I haven't really noticed a big difference in how the Retin A has diminished those, so those have been about the same. But I would say the greatest area of improvement has just been the overall smoothness and the refined look to my skin. And it did take some time when I first started using Retin A to really see that improvement. I would say it was at least, I think if you go back to my older videos, it's probably, I mentioned it there, but it does take at least like a full 8 to 12 weeks of use before you really start seeing the benefits. In the beginning, you can really feel like your skin's only getting worse, and that may very well be the case, but it usually does for most people then get better. And your skin really goes through a purging process. It goes through an adjustment where your skin gets very dry, very flaky. I went through all of those things, but I just stuck to it, and I really allowed myself to go very slowly and really ease into the process. And then over time, I've been so happy with the results. So what this video is primarily focusing on is my transition from using the 0.05% up to the current strength that I'm using, which is 0.1%. This is the highest strength available by prescription. So this is the cream form. I've always used the cream form of tretinoin since the beginning. I've been very happy with that. that my skin is combination, although I've mentioned now that I've been using the Retin A for a while, my skin has normalized quite a bit. Those oily areas, which were right through my T-zone, have normalized quite substantially since I've been using this. And I'm actually a little bit more prone to dryness, especially right around my mouth and the end of my nose. I get a lot of flaking on the tip of my nose. I think mostly because that's the area where I'm most prone to dryness, but also I have really bad allergies, so I blow my nose with tissue a lot, and I think that area just gets very dry and irritated. So I'm not sure that's something that my skin is ever going to adjust to as long as I keep sort of drying out that area with my tissues and blowing my nose and things like that. So I'm just very certain to moisturize very heavily every day, and that really seems to control it. The other area on my skin where I've noticed a lot more noticeable dryness is right here under my eyes, primarily in the corners. I'm very careful to not put any of the cream, the tretinoin cream, in that area, but it seems like it still does creep a little bit on its own. So I will always be sure to stay right here below this orbital bone, orbital socket area. But I do, again, still get a little bit of scaly dryness, and I won't notice it so much when my skin is just bare, but when I go to put concealer and things like that on, that's when I notice it a little bit more. So again, that's just an area I'm paying particularly close attention to and making sure to hydrate it very well. So when I increased to this strength of Retin A, I did notice that increase in flakiness and dryness around my mouth, but I did not experience any of the increased acne breakouts this time at all. I actually didn't have any sort of breakout, and that really surprised me, since essentially I was doubling the strength from the 0.05% to the 0.1%. So I really expected to have more of an intense breakout, maybe a lot more dryness. And this transition from this to this highest strength has really been the easiest of all. I am going to be inserting some pictures for you here without any makeup on. A lot of you had requested that I please insert some photos where I don't have my face covered with foundation, and I agree that that's an excellent idea. Unfortunately, I don't have any before and after photos to share with you. I never thought that I was going to be doing this Retin A series, so I didn't think in advance before starting the initial process to take photos of my skin before. But so all I can really give to you is just my experience, what I've noticed. And as you're going to see the photographs, for me, what I've noticed the greatest improvement in is what I mentioned to you before, just the refinement of my skin and the high planes of my face just being a little bit more noticeably brighter, a little bit better exfoliated. You can see a little bit of just smoothness to the skin, and I notice my makeup goes on a lot more easily, and there's just an overall much nicer, smooth appearance to my skin. My pores have been greatly diminished. My pores are largest right here underneath my eyes, around my nose area, and then right here at the top of my nose where I am most oily. And I've really seen a great improvement in that, as well as a reduction in the amount of blackheads that I have on my nose and chin, which are also very oily. Now, just something that I want to cover with you, Retin A or tretinoin is a long-term commitment. So if you want to continue to see the benefits from it, you do need to continue using the product regularly long term. If you stop using it, you will see some of those concerns that you had before starting to use it come back. The other thing is you have to be very committed to protecting your skin every day. This is going to make you more vulnerable to sun damage. Your skin's going to become a lot more photosensitive, so you're going to have to be committed to using an SPF every day. At the minimum 30, I prefer to use 50 on days when I can, especially if I know there's going to be some prolonged sun exposure, but that's something that you really have to do. If you do not protect your skin, you're going to be undoing all of the great benefits that this has done for you, all of the work that it's done to improve your skin. So just a couple things to be aware of. If you're going to start, you really need to be dedicated to using it and protecting your skin. The other thing that I mentioned to you briefly before is that some of the products that you use as far as hydrating your skin may no longer be enough for you, and you might need to increase the amount of hydration that you have, the products that you have for your skin. You may say, well, I have very oily skin or very combination skin. I don't need a lot of moisture, but my experience has been that that is going to change as you start using the Retin A, especially when you work up to using it every night like I do at this point. Actually, let me touch on that really briefly. When I started using the 0.1%, even though I had been using the prescription for over a year, I started this as I would have the other strengths. I started off very slowly, using this every third night, and now I can use it every night without problem. I am still getting a little bit of dryness and flakiness around my mouth and on the tip of my nose, like I mentioned. So what I do is I apply this at night, probably about a pea-sized amount, maybe a little bit more, to cover my entire face and neck. And then I will wait for about 20 to 30 minutes and then apply a very generous layer of my CeraVe PM. I've been using this pretty much all along, and I have found that it is enough moisture for me, but I do apply it very heavily at night. Also, during the day, or before I apply my makeup, I do like to add a little bit of this just to this area from my eyes down. I find that that needs a little bit of extra moisture, and then I will go over the top of that and add either my sunscreen, or I like to use the IT Cosmetics CC cream with SPF 50. So I found that those are a good combination. Your skin really does seem to drink in the moisture more as you're using the Retin A, so just something to be aware of. I've also noticed the most dryness, or a little bit more increased dryness, right here on the corners of my eyes. You don't want to apply this cream anywhere near your eyes, but if you're like me, I found that some of the dryness and flakiness still does sort of creep into that area. So I've been using the Bobbi Brown Hydrating Eye Cream. This is a little bit heavier than something I would have needed in the past, but I do apply this again very generously at night all around my eyes. I'm also getting a little bit of dryness up in this area, so I just make sure to coat it well, and then my skin feels very comfortable the following day. And that dryness around the eyes may not be something you notice until you apply your makeup, but then I notice it's pretty pronounced for me. And then finally, the other thing that I've made a change in, which has been, I think, the most beneficial for me, is I've changed from using my CeraVe Foaming Facial Cleanser to the CeraVe Hydrating Facial Cleanser. This has made a really significant difference. And while I didn't find the CeraVe Foaming Facial Cleanser to be drying, my skin still felt comfortable. I knew that going into the 0.1% tretinoin cream, I was going to need a little extra help with that. So I went ahead and switched to the hydrating version, and I've been extremely happy with this. This is so gentle. It doesn't make my skin greasy or oily. It keeps it very comfortable throughout the day. So especially as we're moving into the cooler, drier months, I'm noticing that this has made a really big difference. So using these in combination has been just the best thing that I did, the best decision that I've made. So just keep that in mind, that you might want to consider using some more hydrating products. If your skin is already very dry, this is probably going to be even more important for you to do. Just make sure you give your skin lots of moisture, because it's really going to soak it in. So that is it. I hope that I have covered this well for you. If you do have any additional questions, please do leave them down below. I'm not a doctor. I don't have any medical training, so I can only answer your questions based on my own research and then my own personal experience. I can't really give you any medical advice about it because I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. So I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.